Hello and welcome to the finale of Wayports Racing League Season 2 in Live for Speed. We're at Kyoto GP for the second time this season in Division 1, but for round 10. I'm Peter Butcher, and joining me in the commentary box for the final race of Season 2, it's Adam Brown. Hi, Adam.
Hey Pete, this should be it should be a grandstand finish and another brilliant race here in the Wayports Racing League. Yeah, fantastic track to sort of close out this season, and we've got a fantastically close championship battle in both sides of the coin, on the team's championship and the drivers' championship. It should be a great fun race here today.
Yeah, Kyoto Ring National will be the scene for the finale, as Adam mentioned. And let's have a look at the track now. We've had 10 rounds of racing this season, and it all comes down to this: the 5.1 kilometre, 3.2 mile circuit with 10 minutes of qualifying and a 10-lap race with a mandatory pit stop. It's a really tricky beast. We've got 3 corners of the Kyoto Ring Oval in Live for Speed, plus the tricky infield section. The car we've been using all season long, should be familiar to all of our viewers by now, is the XF GTI, a 1.3 litre inline-4 front-engined, front-wheel drive car with 115 brake horsepower and weighing in at just under a tonne. It's a fun little car. We've enjoyed watching it all season long. And before we go to the track, Adam, we do need to spend a bit of time talking through this championship situation, because as you can see at the top, there are only 3 points separating Mariano for Interlink France and Andy for Strings. So if Andy wins the race, he wins the championship. If Mariano wins the race, he wins the championship. It's as simple as that, pretty much, because it's 25 points for a win and 18 points for a second place. So unless Mariano has a shocker, any of the top two have a shocker, it should be pretty clear and simple for us to work out who will be the winner today. Santiago had a great round last time. He's in P3. Valentina P4, Ian for Bundles P5, Felipe P6 for Bundles. Then it's Eduardo for Interlink Argentina, William for Interlink Brazil, Arthur for Interlink Brazil, and Wellington for Interlink Argentina, rounding out the Drivers' Championship. So it's really close at the top, and that's where our focus is going to be on today. Similar story, actually, Adam, in the Teams Championship. We've got Strings in the lead with 303, with a 13-point gap back to Interlink France. So it's the opposite story in the Teams Championship. Bundles in P3, solid P3. I don't think they're going to move from that position. So P3 for them this season. Interlink Brazil P4 and Interlink Argentina P5. It could change there because only 1 point separates those two teams for the last spot. Adam, what's going on in qualifying? We'll obviously be talking about this championship battle throughout the session.
Well, Andy from Strings is the first car round the track. He's going to be the first person to set a lap, unless he decides that he wants to let this lap go. He's looking very solid. He was a tad faster than Mariano earlier on in the day, but it looks very, very close, only about a tenth between them. And Mariano is sort of shadowing him right behind him on track. So this should sort of be a demonstration of what might happen in the race. It does look like Andy's getting away a bit in qualifying, but
well, it's only early doors. We have 5 minutes left, and because of the nature of how long this track is, the drivers are only going to get a handful of laps in. It is quite a long lap, and as you can see by the timer there, we're at 5 minutes 43 to go, and we only have, at this point, we only have one driver about to cross the start-finish line to set a time. So here comes Andy. He is cutting down to the apron now. We've got a barrier lining the apron, so you can't cut onto it today. But here we go. He's coming up to start-finish, and he is going to set the first benchmark, and Mariano will follow him straight across the line, so we'll get a very early indication of the pace of these drivers. That's the timing line for the alternate direction. Here is the timing line for the track we're at today, and it's a 2:16.5 for Andy and a 2:17.4 for Mariano. So yeah, that's foreshadowing what might happen here, Adam.
It's a big gap, but it's a long track, so maybe it's not as big as we would think, but still, Mariano would want to be closer.
Certainly, and that's going to be a shock for Mariano, because in midweek practice, Andy didn't do a time anywhere near that. So Andy's done a brilliant lap time straight away, nearly a second faster than Mariano already.
Mariano's going to have to push now. He'll see that time and he'll be under pressure, and he might not set some represented times because of that pressure. He does tend to drive quite well under pressure though, so he should be okay.
Yeah, he's consistent and he deals well with the pressure, but you know this is more pressure than he's had all season now. He leads the championship by a tiny margin, but he's on the back foot already, and you don't want to be on the back foot, especially when you're defending your championship crown. Obviously, he's the winner from season one, and his team also P2 in the teams championship. They won the teams championship last season, so everything is on the line. Andy, he's got nothing to lose.
Yeah, well, Andy does have something to lose because he definitely does have a massive chance in the drivers' championship, and of course, there's only a small gap in the teams' championship. So if Andy does have a bad race, Strings could end up being behind in the team's championship. As
Andy
Andy
just aborted
decides
his run, yeah.
pulls to the side, obviously decided his lap wasn't fast enough.
Yeah, and fancies following Mariano around maybe for a lap. So Mariano is going to set a time here because he hasn't backed off the lap. He's going to hope it's an improvement because he will only have 2 more chances to improve with the way that the clock currently stands. So here he comes. Andy won't set a representative time this lap. Meanwhile, further back, Santiago's the best of the rest. He's 1.75 seconds off these two. But yeah, here comes Mariano.
Santiago's second split time looks just as fast as Mariano's. There's a 10th in it, but Santiago could be threatening the back of the Interlink France car.
No improvement from Mariano on that lap. Andy obviously won't improve either. Let's take a look at Santiago. Here he comes across the line. And wow, big improvement in lap time.
10th and a half behind Mariano. Mariano will see that and will feel even more pressure. Of course, I'm just thinking it's an incredibly long run down to the first proper corner. Of course, you've got turn 1, which is an oval corner, which you'll take flat out in this car. But turn 2, that Valentina's just going into now, there's a massive amount of flat out driving before you get there. So there is a very big chance that pole probably isn't the place you want to be.
Yep, that is a good point. But yeah, this is quite a pace advantage going on. Andy's backed off again on this lap. He's obviously trying to get his tyres into a window where he can set one perfect lap, but he can't hang around too much. He's only going to get one more attempt after this lap to set a time. So Andy, if he wants to improve and secure that pole position, he needs to get one more lap in, and it won't be this lap, Adam.
Yeah, looks like Santiago is setting a very fast time again. He's got a good split time, first split time, faster than anything Mariano's done, I believe.
Right, well, let's have a look. He's currently coming into the final sector of the lap. He has no traffic ahead of him. The only car ahead of him on track is Mariano, who's already pushing on a lap time. So he's not going to be impeded as he heads underneath the Wayports racing bridge here at Kyoto National.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it looks like he did have a bit of a slow middle sector, but he might be able to save it in this final sector if he gets a good exit.
That looked decent. That looked really smooth.
Yeah, good on the throttle, all the way through on full throttle through that final corner. If he just hugs the apron now and keeps a tight line out to the start-finish line, start-finish straight, he should be okay. This might be an improvement.
Let's see. Will this be a Strings front row? We will find out in just one little kink time. He goes through the little kink on the oval, up to the timing line, and no improvement.
Yeah, it was very close. Only less than a 10th to his time he's at before.
Ian from Bundles just improved to P4. He goes ahead of his teammate Felipe. So yeah, Bundles guys doing a great job. P4 and P5 at the moment. Valentina, if she wants to help in the teams championship, she needs to get a wriggle on. She cannot be in P6 for the start of this race if she wants to aid Mariano in getting that teams championship secure. At the moment, it is the advantage to Strings there. Valentina will be the last car actually to set a lap because we're already at 0-0 in this session. Andy's just ahead. It's unclear to us whether he actually managed. I think he just managed to get across the timing line, Adam, but I think there were only a couple of seconds to spare. So this is it for Andy. He needs to pray that no one else improves or he needs to improve himself on this final attempt.
He set a decent first split time, but I don't think it's anything anywhere near as good as his fastest lap in the session. So this might not be an improvement for him.
Well, let's see how he does. Mariano takes a pretty wide entry into the final sector there, the number 1 on his car. He'll be wanting to keep that for next season. But yeah, he could do with starting this race on pole if possible.
Looks like quite a smooth final sector, but that second split just does not fill me with hope that Mariano's gonna improve even. See, surprisingly, it's not as tight to the apron as he could be through the final oval turn.
Well, you mentioned this earlier in the session, but starting in P2 on this long oval is not the worst thing. So Mariano comes across the line. I don't think it's going to be an improvement. Will it be an improvement? Here he comes to the line. No improvement. So Mariano is starting P2 at best. We need to see what Santiago manages. Here he comes.
Santiago's just gone and
Yep.
beaten Mariano's time.
Right, so it's the Strings front row right now. Let's see if he and for Bundles can improve as he comes to the start-finish line. He has not improved. Felipe is in... Where's Felipe? Felipe is coming into the final sector now. But yes, it will be Valentina, the final car across the line. She stays P6, and that is our qualifying session concluded, Adam.
Yeah, quite a spread there. At the back, they're quite far behind, and yeah, Valentina sadly just isn't anywhere near the sort of times that she would want to sort of challenge for the team's championship. She's got to hope that Santiago has some sort of issue.
Andy for Strings will take the front row start, the pole position for the finale of Wayports Racing League Season 2 in Division 1. Santiago, his teammate for Strings, lines up alongside. Look at the gap of the times, Adam. It's super close at the front, but he does pip Mariano for Interlink France. The reigning champion in this season will start the final race from the second row. Not what he wanted at all. Ian for Bundles and Felipe for Bundles start P4 and P5. Valentina, Mariano's teammate, in P6. Then we've got Eduardo, Arthur, and Wellington at the back. So it's going to be a very interesting run down to turn 1. The slipstream will undoubtedly come into effect. Adam, so is this the end of the world for Mariano? I don't think so.
Well, he will have slipstream, but it still is quite hard to make a move. You know, these cars, they do give slipstream, but it's not maybe as powerful as it is in some other cars. So there is definitely chance that Andy and Santiago can sort of keep their positions as long as they make a good defense, you know, into the first corner.
Well, it's certainly something to consider, but because Mariano gets a slipstream off of the cars in front, it also means that the Bundles guys behind will get a slipstream off everybody in front. So Mariano needs to have the start of the season. He needs to make sure he gets a perfect reaction to the lights, pulls into the slipstream of one of the Strings guys ahead, and challenge. He needs to challenge for that move into turn 1 because he cannot let Andy or Santiago run away with this. We've seen it in previous races that sometimes, you know, one or the other just has the pace advantage, and that is that. We've seen some very close ends to the racing, but it will all come down to that first lap. Mariano has had some bad starts this season. He's also had some great ones. He really does need a good one today. We're going to go for a short break here, but don't go anywhere because we are going to have the grandstand finish of Wayports Racing League Season 2 coming up in just a few moments' time. Hello and welcome back to Wayports Racing League Season 2 Division 1, the finale of Season 2 at Kyoto Ring GP. As you can see on your screens, Andy for Strings took pole position crucially ahead of both his teammate and Mariano, who is the current championship leader. We are just moments away from the start of this one, and Adam, I'm really excited.
Yeah, well, first might not be the best place to start, but with that gap, Andy should be very happy with his pace. As we go to the grid, Andy flashes his lights, and it's away we go. Andy with a good start. Mariano deciding to sort of go straight to the middle. They're all sort of in order now. Santiago, maybe not the best start as he would have hoped. Of course, we've got to watch out for Ian from Bundles as well, who's joining the draft train behind the three sort of the two championship contenders. Mariano
Crucially,
goes
Mariano's
to the
got the
inside.
slipstream. Yeah, he's had the slipstream to good effect on Santiago, and now look at him. He's bearing down on the back of Andy. Andy going very defensive. A little bit of contact between the two championship rivals, and it's almost as though, oh yes,
Mariano's just bumped Andy round. That's a bump and run.
all right. So
Andy
yeah,
will be wanting to make his way straight back up. He's not lost too many positions, but he's down in fourth and crucially lost a couple seconds to the leader.
yeah,
And
that
there's
was a bit of a bump and run into turn one for Mariano, just pushing Andy round there. Andy was perfectly entitled to be on that line. And yeah, he's down to P4. So Andy needs to use that qualifying pace to good effect now. Right now, he has to carve his way back through the field. He cannot let Mariano run away.
If I were Andy, I would be complaining after the race. Well, I'd be complaining during the race, because that was quite a harsh move by Mariano. As we see, Andy is already looking to make a move on Ian from Bundles.
Yeah,
Goes to
side
the
by side.
inside. Ian leaves space, but Andy doesn't look like he's close. Ian runs wide, and Andy's got it.
So a place gained. He's back on the podium. Santiago, he's not going to be playing any games. He's going to want to try and catch up to the back of Mariano and try and stall him, I'm sure, in this race. Stop him from making any more progress, as we've got Ian going very wide. Oh, and there's contact, almost contact with his teammate.
And behind Ian, someone is flipping around. Flipping over. I think we saw him just in the corner there. Wellington resets his car and he's back on track.
Well, Valentina managed to weave her way past Ian, who got it all wrong going into the final chicane. And that means that Valentina is catching up to the back of Felipe. This is important for the team's championship, because if Valentina can get that P4, that'll be great points for their championship hopes. But yeah, meanwhile, Mariano is about to complete lap number 1. In hot pursuit is Santiago and Andy. And it doesn't look like Andy is hanging around, is he? He's really on it.
Yeah, he's already in that last final sector on the oval. Has already gained half a second on the gap to Mariano, so he definitely is making moves. Definitely not wasting any time on catching back up.
Well, this is a thriller. Andy did not have the start he wanted because he got a bit of a bump from Mariano. We've got Santiago really, really close now. This is the most aggressive we've seen Santiago all season. He's right on the back of Mariano and giving him a hard time. And I don't blame him. Here we go. We're riding on board with Mariano. You've got the two strings cars following right behind. I wonder what's going through Mariano's head right now.
Well, I wonder what's going through Andy's head. Mariano's got to sort of think, does he let Andy pass? Because obviously that contact was his fault. But if he lets Andy pass, he's also got to let Santiago pass. So will he wait for Andy to get past Santiago before he lets him pass? Or will he not let him pass at all?
Bit of news further back. Valentina has dropped way down to P7, in fact. So while we were watching this lead battle, Eduardo's got back past, and so has Ian. So Valentina's had a shocker somewhere.
Yeah, she's still off in the gravel. And yeah, Valentina is literally in the last place at the moment. Ethan Arthur's managed to get back past her, so this is not good for Interlink France.
No, if it finishes this way, absolutely, definitely, Santiago and Andy for Strings will be lifting that team's championship trophy. It's still all to play for in the drivers. However, if it finishes this way, then Mariano will, of course, win. But yeah, he has got lots to think about. Andy is really catching now. You can see how close these three are. This is the battle that these guys have wanted all season long. and it seems like Kyoto National is going to be the stage for the most exciting battle of the season. As Andy takes the fastest lap, that is critical.
Yeah, and Santiago is also faster than Mariano. So, well, we're seeing what we saw in qualifying. Mariano was the slower of the three. Got some very interesting lines through those oval corners. Definitely not as fast as the lines that the Strings cars are taking.
But crucially, not giving away a slipstream as well. You saw that at the later stages, Santiago wasn't really gaining on him. A great entry to the chicane for these guys.
As Mariano's made a mistake. He's gone round.
Oh, and Andy returns the favour
Yeah,
from
I mean,
earlier. I feel like that was avoidable, to be honest.
avoidable, but Mariano was sort of going back and forth across the racing line and off it. So I think that's as much Mariano's fault as it was Andy's fault there.
Well, look what we have now. We have Santiago leading his teammate Andy around the track for this race, and if it finishes like this, it will be a tie. It'll be a tie between Mariano and Andy in the points. Andy's got a bonus point for pole position. Andy currently has the fastest lap, so he'd be 2 points ahead at this point. So yeah, it's a tie for the race points. Andy currently has the 2 bonus points. If Mariano was to take that fastest lap ahead, it would be a tie, Adam.
Yeah, I don't think he will though, because obviously he just isn't as fast. Andy's current fastest lap time was faster than what Mariano did in qualifying, and the tires for all of these drivers are only going to get worse. I mean, the cars will get lighter, but the tires will be in worse condition. As oh my god, I've noticed, well, on my own screen, contact in front.
Yeah, we missed it, but this is great for Mariano. He's going to swing past, and that's Andy. Andy's way down again, so something's happened with the Strings boys. Santiago's gone. Santiago's got huge damage, and he's spun again on the straight. So this is an absolute disaster for Strings. It seems like Santiago has gone slowly through the final sector. Andy's crashed into the back of him, and Santiago is out of this race pretty much.
Santiago really needs to reset his car. I mean, we saw one of the Argentina drivers doing it.
Yep. He just needs to stop that car and reset it. He doesn't want to go down the pit lane to repair it because that just takes way too much time. This is all change. Strings could not only lose the drivers' championship, but also the teams' championship with that mistake.
Yeah, I mean, luckily Valentina is quite far down the grid, so she won't be scoring that many points anyway. But if she can make her way back up, see, Santiago
he's not repaired the damage.
Didn't repair damage.
This is a disaster for Strings.
He really needs to reset the car now before he leaves the pit lane. He needs to stop it. He needs to stop the car. I don't know what Santiago's doing. Maybe he's just so much adrenaline from the contact with his teammate that he's not thinking straight.
That rear left is completely broken. If he continues going, he's just throwing away his points. Here we go. He's stopping and he resets finally. So he's worked out what to do. He'll be back on his way, but critically, Valentina now is miles ahead.
And Andy, and the damage that Andy's got, I think that is slowing him down in his battle with Mariano. He was a whole half a second slower in the first split on this lap. Let's see if he gains any time back. He looks fairly smooth, fairly fast, but the damage could still be affecting his driving.
Yeah, we're nowhere near halfway through this race, and we've already had enough drama to fill a season. So Mariano coming up to the final corner now with a pristine car. It has to be said, he only had that one bit of contact two bits of contact with Andy. But let's focus on some other drama, some other action. We've got Felipe for Bundles in a podium position with Eduardo pressuring him. So this could be an excellent end to the season for Bundles or Interlink Argentina if either of these two end up on the podium.
Felipe with a tighter line around the oval, but Eduardo with the outside line, which may give him a better exit. Looks like Eduardo's going wide and might decide to tuck into the slipstream of Felipe.
Needs to be careful.
He's already alongside.
Yeah, from that camera angle, you saw how close it got there with these two going. So Yep, 4.5 seconds separates Mariano and Andy. We will keep an eye on the gap, but it's definitely coming down. There you go, another half a second going in the favour of Andy. So even though it's his teammate has tripped him up a little bit, we think he is still on a charge, and it's not over at the front. It is not over at the front. Eduardo, that was a great move. P3 for him.
Yep, definitely good move for him. Round the outside on the oval, getting very, very close to the bundles driver. I'm surprised that they even got that close because they're both from South America, so the ping to the server, the sort of connection lag is very high. It's about half a second I think from each driver, 500 milliseconds.
Yeah.
So it's very, very good that they've managed to keep it on track and safe.
Let's look at the timing tower. 3.6 seconds now between Andy and Mariano. We've been here before, obviously. If there's no Santiago now to worry about, so once Andy catches up, if he does indeed catch up, he only has to deal with his championship contender. They've both hit each other in this race. Probably you wouldn't put much of the blame with Andy, but they have had that contact. So will they do it again? We will have to wait and see. Andy needs to catch up first, but it looks like he's going to manage it, Adam.
Yeah, he's setting some really nice times, almost as fast as the sort of times that he was setting in qualifying. He's already half a second faster on this lap. He could take even more time out, but half a second isn't good enough. If he only takes out half a second each lap, he's not going to catch Mariano before the end of the race.
No, I mean, they've still got the pit stop to go, and we know how interesting the pit stop can be. Eduardo, meanwhile, has lost P3. Felipe's gone a little bit wide out of the final corner, and now it's Ian in P3. So all changed further behind as well.
Andy, well, as you say, he's still got pit stops to go. Andy's got to make sure that he accidentally hasn't got damage repair selected, because if he's got damage repair selected, this damage, which doesn't seem to be costing him much time, would be fixed in the pit stop and would slow him down by seconds.
Yeah, he'd lose out on the podium if that happened. The bundles guys are not far enough behind that he would come out ahead of them. But Andy's just set 4 fastest sectors in a row, and he's brought the gap down to 3 seconds now to Mariano. He has 5 laps, half of the race to go. If he keeps doing that, he's going to catch him by the end.
Yeah, they both set their fastest laps of the race on that previous lap, and well, Andy's was slightly under a second faster than Mariano's, 0.98 faster. So it's really incredible laps by Andy.
Throughout the season, it has been Mariano who's been the more consistent pace. He has had the most consistent pace of any of the drivers. So in this situation, your money would be on Mariano to take this to the end. But for some reason, this week, Andy's pace around Kyoto National is just leagues ahead of anyone else. So if he can do consistent laps, which he has struggled with throughout the season, then he could do it. But in this middle sector, again, this lap, Mariano is doing just about enough to stay ahead. And that gap's still rock solid at 3 seconds. We will get an update around this next corner of what that gap is. And it looks like it's holding fairly stable right now. But yes, this pit lane is so long that anything can happen in that stop. Who has practiced their pit stops? And will we see anything change there? The gap's gone up a little bit there, Adam.
Yeah, it has gone up a little bit, which is surprising, but only by a sort of tenth or so. I mean, Andy his laps do come in sort of waves. He sets an incredibly fast lap time, then a sort of mediocre lap time, and then sets another incredibly fast lap time. I've noticed that as a sort of trend throughout the season. So maybe next lap, with the tires in slightly better condition, he will set another blinder, as we see Ian from Bundles decides to go into the pit lane.
Yeah, if you ignore the fact that Santiago was forced to make a pit stop, this is the first of our top drivers who have blinked. So Ian will go into the pit lane. He slowed down quite early. You can see the rear of the car getting a little bit out of shape as he slows down to the 80 km/h, 50 mile an hour speed limit on this oval pit lane. He'll choose a fairly early pit stop box, I imagine, and get on his way. He's missed that one, and he's just about got into that one, so that should be a quick stop, and he'll be away. 2.2 seconds.
Yep, 2.2 seconds isn't as fast as we've seen throughout the championship, but it's definitely not a slow stop. It's not going to cost him any positions.
News from the other Interlink France driver, Valentina, has not only missed the pit box, but she also picked up a drive-through penalty for speeding into the pit lane, which is another trip down the pit lane for her in this race. So even more bad news for Interlink France in this race. Mariano doing everything that he needs to do right now. 2.6 seconds the gap. And I have to say, I think Mariano's pit stops throughout this season, Adam, have certainly been more consistent, and he's been quicker in them. So if
I
he
would have
continues
to
that trend
agree.
today, if he continues that trend today, he will open that gap up even more.
I mean, last week, Andy, he wasn't as fast as Mariano at Blackwood reversed, but he definitely had an opportunity to have a good result, but he sort of ruined that in the pit stops. He had an incredibly slow pit stop. So I mean, it will be fresh in his mind to make sure that he selects all his options correctly, but you know, there is definitely a chance there as well, Andy's taken out almost half a second already on this lap, and it looks like he could be taking out a bit more if he sets a good final sector.
Well, this week, Andy's decided to stay out a bit longer in the race. Obviously, his pace is there this week, so he didn't feel the need to pit early. But the problem last week was that he pitted so early in the race that he came out in traffic. And we're riding on board with Eduardo, who's catching up to Felipe again. It looks like one of them is going to go in the pits, or is it both of them?
Sorry to interrupt. It looks like Andy has decided to make his way into the pit lane. I can see on my little track map, and well, let's see how good this stop is.
Yeah,
Perfect on the box, well. But it's not a rapid stop. It looks like he's taken a tiny bit of fuel, but it wasn't a slow stop.
No, that's good by Andy's standards for sure. I mean, sometimes he puts a little bit of too much fuel in than he needs, and that slows down his stop. As Eduardo comes in for a perfect pit stop there, and well, there we go. He moves away. So that was actually decent for Eduardo. He has definitely got a chance to get that podium in this race. Andy comes out in P3 with Felipe yet to stop. So that's a bundles car in P2. But on aggregate, he will come out slightly behind. There you can see actually one of the bundles cars smoking into turn one, the tyres. Looks like Felipe's had some front locking problems there.
Of course, Andy didn't just have a fast pit stop, and he also was very good under brakes, and he held to the limit perfectly throughout that whole pit stop cycle. So Mariano's under a lot of pressure to sort of get a perfect pit stop.
Well, this is super exciting. Really, really is. This has been building up for a long time this season. At the beginning, it looked like Mariano was going to walk this season, but around about round 3 or 4, Andy just turned something on and it has performed extremely well for the end of this season, to the point where Mariano was denied race wins for a long time. He's currently in the lead, but has yet to serve that all-important pit stop. He has 2 more times around the track in order to decide to come in. He might decide to do it now and cover himself off, or he might wait. What's he going to do? Like, he's going to wait. He's going to go over that yellow line. That is the pit entry line. He has to stay to the right-hand side of that if he wants to come in, and he's stayed out. So one more time around, and then we will expect to see Mariano do his pit stop.
Yeah, Andy, better hope that he isn't sort of interrupted by Felipe. It looks like Felipe's got enough pace that he isn't going to get in the way of Andy's charge. But,
and he's going in the pits.
Felipe's going in the pits, so Andy has a clear track in front of him. He has been released. He doesn't have to worry about overtaking anyone, apart from, of course, Mariano.
Well, this is so exciting. I cannot wait to see what happens at the end of this race, and we don't have long to wait. Felipe down to the pit lane speed limit, and he will find his way into the pit box. But importantly, there goes Andy back into P2, and we're just going to wait to see what his lap time is, to see how much of a gain he's making on the Interlink France car ahead of him.
Well, of course, a slower lap time after his stop, but he did start gaining again on Mariano in the second half of that lap. So very impressive from Andy. He's keeping the gap, keeping that pressure on Mariano, because Mariano will be able to see that Andy did gain on him in that last part of the lap. He will be able to see the gaps. So this is definitely pressure for Mariano. He's halfway round the lap now.
Yeah, he needs to relax and focus on the task in hand. At the way it stands, they have lost. They have lost the teams' championship. Strings will be taking that home. It looks like if Santiago can stay ahead of Valentina, but we will see what happens. Obviously, we need to crunch the numbers at the end. Mariano is looking like he's going to take victory in the drivers' championship if he can keep it like this and make a good pit stop. He will have to come in the pit lane this lap, Adam.
Of course, one thing that Mariano maybe hasn't taken into account is that if he does mess up his pit stop and gets a drive through or something like that, which will lose him the race anyway, if he does get a drive through, well, he'll be disqualified from the round because he won't have another lap on the end to serve it.
Yeah, so this is a risk for him. This could make or break Mariano's championship. The next 30 seconds will decide the championship pretty much. We'll only have a lap left. Let's watch on board with Mariano as he serves this pit stop. He'll have to be super careful on the entry. He cannot afford any of this to go wrong. Here he comes. Good entry.
He's very good entry, very good on the limit. Now he's got to make sure to nail his box here. If he misses it, well, that's seconds lost.
Yeah, he missed it last time, if you remember, and
he's missed it. Now, fortunately, he managed to keep some momentum there. He didn't fully slow down, so
he was a second quicker-ish than Andy at the actual pit stop, but he did have a bit of a hesitation pulling up to a box. Andy is coming across start finish now.
Andy's got the momentum, but Mariano is quite far ahead. This is going to be side by side.
This is
crazy.
As
soon as Mariano is released from this sort of barrier.
Yeah, we're going to see Mariano appear on the right-hand side of our screen there, and that is the gap for the final of this season. This is so exciting.
Oh, Mariano's a bit wide, so Andy hoping for the cutback around the outside into this sort of third and fourth corner. He cut back right on the inside. Muscles his way in there.
Great move.
That was a beautiful move. He had every right to muscle his way in there and force the pass. That was very well done from him, and it's setting a very fast split time in the process.
Did we just watch the crown of Wayports Racing League change hands? If Andy can keep that car ahead of Mariano for 4 more corners, we did. And it looks like that gap is just increasing all the time. So what an absolutely amazing strategy there from Andy. Mariano just not able to keep it ahead. But, you know, Mariano gave everything to this race. A perfect, almost perfect pit stop. He just slightly hesitated on his actual entry. But, yeah, Andy, what a drive so far. He just needs 2 more corners and he's got this wrapped up. What a race.
That was a beautiful move by Andy, and he looks like he's getting away from Mariano. I think Mariano's sort of powerless to do anything.
Well, let's see. He can lose it all at the final moment. We've seen everything in Wayports Racing League. It's never over until it's over. Mariano needs to pray Andy gets a bad exit here, or else it really is all over for him. Mariano got a great exit. Will he have a slipstream? Looks like that gap is just too big.
It's just a bit too big. Andy's got he's got to go all the way down to the apron, make sure that Mariano doesn't get any sort of slipstream.
Pole position, fastest lap so far. A terrible start to the race. The flashing of the headlights has started already, and why not? Because Andy for Strings has stolen the crown away from Mariano to win Wayports Racing League Season 2, our Drivers' Championship there, by 6 points in the end. And Mariano, well, fair play to him. He put up an incredible display at the beginning of this season, and all the way through the final few races, he was right there with Andy. But, you know, full credit to Andy. That is an emphatic win. What a way to do it.
Yeah, I think he lost control of his car out of excitement there over the line, which is fair enough. That was very impressive and a very, very deserved victory of both this race and the championship.
And this is a nice story here. Sorry to interrupt. We've got Ian for Bundles coming along across the line in P3, which means we've got Strings, Interlink France, and Bundles on the podium. That's a nice way to finish the season. A great podium for Ian there. It looked like it was going the way of Eduardo, who has to settle for P5 in the end. Felipe gets a nice P4 for Bundles, and then we have to wait a little bit. Santiago will finish in P6, not what he expected today, unfortunately for him. Wellington for Interlink Argentina, a good result for him actually. He didn't pit, so he's actually disqualified. So that's not a good result for him, in fact, which will mean that Valentina will pick up a place actually in the end.
Valentina finishes the position behind Santiago. Unfortunately, because of Andy's, brilliant win there, Strings will round out both the Drivers' Championship and the Teams' Championship. I think by quite a margin in the end in the Teams' Championship.
Yes, because Andy and Santiago finished ahead of the Interlink France teammates, they will win both championships. So we need a little bit of time here to sort out the interview situation today, because we're going to be doing the interviews in Wayports itself today. All right, so let's get a full rundown of those championship, the race results. Sorry, Adam, and then we will have a talk with our drivers today. So there we go. Full confirmation. Andy wins with in 23 minutes 46 seconds with a fastest lap of 2 minutes 16.56 ahead of Mariano for Interlink France. Ian for Bundles finishes P3, Felipe P4, Eduardo, Santiago, Valentina, Wellington, and Arthur round out the grid. But yes, what an excellent race. We're going to just quickly jump into Wayports and get the driver interviews underway. We'll be back in just a second. We will be back in just a couple of seconds. We're just setting up here for the interview phase. We have some drivers waiting for us. We'll bring you that in just a couple of moments' time. Thanks for your patience. Okay, we're ready for interviews here. So let's get the show on the road, Adam.
Yeah. Not sure who we're going to talk to first. Pete, who do you want to talk to first?
Let's have a word with. Let's have a word with our champion, Drivers' Championship winner, Andy for strings, if you wouldn't mind. Andy, are you there? I think Andy's around here somewhere. Where's Andy gone?
I do not know.
We're just grabbing Andy for an interview, and we will talk to him in just a moment's time. Here comes Andy. Hi, Andy. We got you finally. Can you hear us? We do not appear to be able to hear Andy.
Yeah, maybe having some technical difficulties.
So just waiting for Andy to have a chat. Maybe you can go and grab Mariano and our other interviewees, Adam, and then we can have a chat with them. So I think we've got Ian here. Ian, can you hear us?
Hey.
Hello, Mariano. Can you hear us?
Yep, I can.
Great. We couldn't quite get Andy in the interview, which is a shame. But give us your thoughts on that race and the season in full.
That's a race to forget for me. I don't know what happened. In testing, we did in one day we did 4 different race simulations, and for some reason I don't know. We had a similar pace. Today I just couldn't get those lap times. It just didn't work out for me. So many contact situations that I don't even know. But right then in the end, all I could do was cover. I missed my pit box. All I could do was cover Andy, and I thought he had no room, but he found some room, so he made it through that turn, and that was all over. But yeah.
Yeah, how did you feel after lap one? You took the lead in sort of, well, a bit of cheeky fashion. You gave him a little tap on the rear, but you had the lead, and you just seemed to have decent pace, but unfortunately it wasn't to be. Anything you would do differently if you had to sort of try that race again, if you had an opportunity to go back and give it another go?
Yeah, for sure. I would like the pace I had before. I just don't understand why today I couldn't get it out of the car. I can't explain it. I don't know what happened there. But yeah, it is what it is. I think that, it's nothing to look back and to say what I would have done differently. It's done. And congratulations to Andy. He put up a great fight all season long. And yeah, there were a lot of things that you wish you could take back, like being taken out in 2 opportunities where it wasn't my fault. I didn't do anything. I was just in my way, and just somebody takes me off the road. But what are you going to do? It's what it is. There's always next season, and it's all to play for.
Okay.
I think we have an Andy next to you. Is Andy back?
Yeah, I'm back. Hi. I was in the dressing room. Someone had the same shirt like me.
Well, that is a great shirt.
Yeah, thank you. It's a winner shirt.
Congrats, Andy. You win both the Drivers and Teams Championship for Season 2. How do you feel?
Oh, that's great. Oh, I didn't how it ended for Santiago after our little mishap. Yeah, I feel great about the title. Yeah, and it's so close, and the fight with Mariano and losing the title within a race twice is very hard. And in the last lap, a move, it can't be greater like that. Yeah, of course.
Well,
Perfect.
excellent stuff. Yeah, you are the Wayports Racing League Season 2 Driver Championship. The crown moves from the head of Mariano to yours. There we go. There's the celebration.
Yeah.
How did you feel after lap one? You sort of had an incident with Mariano, and you seemed to be sort of on the back foot. You were back in 5th place at one point. How did you feel fighting back? How was your mindset?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't yet know what exactly happened there. I saw Mariano coming down the line, and I tried to defend it, and I guess I was too early on the brakes, and he couldn't brake too, and so I had to let all the people pass while turning the car back around in direction. Seeing, okay, he's in front, that's not good. Santiago was chasing him, that's okay, but I had the 2 bundles cars in front of me, and luckily I had that overtake almost in turn 3, and I had to focus on Santiago and Mariano. It was not that good feeling, but I knew with the pace I can close the gap, and maybe there would be a move. It came all very different.
Thank you, Andy. We do need to grab a quick word with Ian before we wrap up here. We are quite tight for time. Ian, just very quickly,
Sure.
congrats on the podium.
Thanks.
Yeah, excellent stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty cool because I just found out about that I was in 3rd position in the last turn before going to the oval, back to the oval. I was so focused on not letting Eduardo and Felipe getting closer to me that I completely forgot about my position. I just wanted to hold them back. So yeah, it was a great surprise.
Excellent stuff. Well, thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
We will continue the party in Wayports, obviously, after the broadcast, but that will wrap up that today. So congratulations, Andy. And yeah, we
Thank you.
will see you next time, I suppose.
Yeah, good pass, good race.
Good pass, good race.
Yeah.
So, Adam, I do believe that we have some provisional team, championship standings to show, and wouldn't that be great? Let's have a look at those, and we will wrap up here. So, in the Drivers' Championship, it does in fact look like, yes, we have Andy Verstrings with 224 points ahead of Mariano Frinklink France with 218, 114 points going to Santiago. Then we have Ian for Bundles in P4. Valentina Frinklink France finishes P5. Felipe P6. Eduardo Frinklink Argentina P7. William Frinklink Interlink Brazil P8. Arthur Frinklink Brazil P9. And Wellington rounding out the 10 of our finishes in the unofficial final standings in P10. So yeah, Adam, give me a summary of your thoughts of Wayport Racing League Season 2 and those results.
Well, I'm pretty sure that last race was a perfect sort of roundup of the championship. It was Andy on the back foot, Mariano having the lead, but Andy fighting back, persevering, giving it his all, and ended up winning it. Very, very, very well done to him. Of course, to Strings as well, as you can see. Strings, same sort of story. Interlink had the position. They had the lead for most of the championship, and Strings sort of took it right at the end, and it was very sort of exciting stuff.
Absolutely, and that does conclude our coverage of Wayports Racing League Season 2 in Live for Speed. We hope you enjoyed it. We certainly did. What a grandstand finish, and it was nice to chat to the drivers in Wayports at the end there. So there we have it.
Definitely was.
Yeah, thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. That was Division 1 of Wayports Racing League Season 2 from Kyoto Ring GP. We hope you enjoyed it, and we'll hope to see you next time. Goodbye.